Good evening. My name is Christina Peters, and I will be presenting on oppositional defiant disorder. ODD is described as a disorder primarily found in young children and adolescents. It is characterized by disobedient, defiant, or negative behavior that tests worse than normal and is consistent and constant in a child's life. Some defining characteristics of ODD are easily angered, argumentative, vindictiveness, impatient, perfectionist, deliberately annoys others, and directs negative behavior towards authority figures. I chose ODD because I'm a sibling of a child who has been diagnosed with ODD, and because there are students in my current internship classroom that have been diagnosed with ODD as well. I have a basic understanding of ODD, but after further research and interviewing some other people, I quickly gained a better understanding of what this disorder is and what it means for a parent, a teacher, and for the child themselves. When choosing who to interview, I knew a parent would have a very good insight on home life with a child with ODD, so I immediately thought of my own parents because of my brother. The initial questions I wanted to talk to my mom about were, what do you know about ODD? Do you see this in any of the children you've ever worked with? And if you have had to deal with any defiant problems, what were some ways you corrected the behavior or dealt with the behaviors? My mom quickly started talking about how deflection was a key. This was not correcting the behavior, but moving away from the negative behavior. The child would forget what was wrong in the first place. She could always find something that interested my brother other than being defiant, and sometimes that was more okay than what he had been previously doing. My mom also made a lot of good points on that there's no fix or cure to ODD, but it's rather from family life and how you react to what your child is doing. When I interviewed the nurse, the initial questions I had were, what kind of problems can occur from any frontal lobe damage? Can you expand on any knowledge you have had on defiant disorders, and what are some ways to reduce defiant disorders? The reason I asked the frontal lobe damage question was because, being the product of a smoker's baby, children tend to have issues with their prefrontal cortex, which is located in the frontal lobe, and I was wondering if defiant behaviors could be a product of the fact that he's a smoker's baby. The nurse expanded on their ways to reduce defiant disorders with meditation and getting checked for ADD or ADHD. They tend to come hand in hand, and any medications that come with ADD or ADHD could potentially also help with any defiant disorders. The last person I wanted to interview was a teacher's aide. I got the opportunity to interview a teacher aide, and they were specifically someone that works with students who have ODD. I wanted to know what were some ways to help and what were specific ways that were not helpful to the student at all. The student aide immediately went into the fact that routine and rewards are the best ways to help a kiddo out. Classroom rewards and personal rewards are both great strategies, but most of the time, the kiddos she's worked with would rather have a personal reward because it's something that they can personally work towards and they can control their own behavior rather than a classroom's. When talking about routines, she talked a lot about that if you do something at a certain time every day, if you were to mess that up and do it at a different time the next day, that is what tends to cause a meltdown. So having a routine in all aspects of life has been very helpful with her students. This information can help me in my own personal and professional life. It gave me a much better understanding of what ODD is and how you can help students and what are ways that you cannot help students. I also found it very helpful considering that students in my classroom have been diagnosed with ODD, and I can take this back to the classroom and try some of the suggestions I've been receiving. It also helped in my personal life, and because I never really understood fully what went through my brother's head growing up, but now I have a much better understanding that it's not really something he can control, but rather something that controlled him because it's just the way his brain is wired. There's still a few questions I have. Why and how does this occur to certain children? Like any researcher wants to know, I would like to be able to understand why this happens to children and what in biological, genetic, and like the environmental life of a child does this occur with. What are some methods to support students, and if there are ways to not support students, like if there are very specific ways that would not be helpful for students, and are there any known ways to help correct ODD? There's no absolute fix to anything in life, but if there are ways that could potentially lessen the defiant behavior. The nurse spoke a little bit about how diet health is the best health because in one of her patients, she saw that just correcting the gut health really turned a whole 180 on that person's personality.